Hello, welcome, Cabbage here. For Nier Reincarnation, let's continue with the translation of the Chronology in the back of the materials book. This is going to be the fifth in a series of 6, but this one we're going to do a little bit differently. For one thing, we're going to go beyond this 5th page and we're going to pull a little bit from the 6th, just the first 3 entries. The reason for doing that is because those first 3 entries are in red, and then I've explained before that in this chronology, the entries in green are like the Nier series, while the ones in red are Nier Reincarnation specific. And in addition, I want to talk about all of these red Nier Reincarnation entries first, together. We'll skip over the green ones, and then we'll come to them afterwards. I had a revelation last night, and doing it like this maybe will help us make sense of what this chronology is doing. But we will cap off Gail's story, 2195, May. The woman with the prostheses disappears. The woman with the prostheses and a girl of unknown origin escape the fallen kingdom to the south. Their whereabouts afterwards are never discovered. As I have mentioned many times, the true conclusion to Gail's arc is found in the secret stories. This image and then this story is from Secret Story 10. And then one thing in the wish list video that I made for the materials book was the reveal of Gail's bad ending, which the writers did say that they wrote, but I don't believe has been included in this book, unless it's in some other section. Not that I'm really hankering for it, I'm fine with the happy ending for Gail. And then here I can answer a question which some people have asked, and which has bothered me as well. But like, looking at the timeline here, is it possible that, some characters or like just the people of the reincarnation stories, are they actually replicants? They're actually not. Some of them are non-human, so we know like the clones, or we know the AI, or we know the clockwork soldiers, but nobody is technically a replicant. This will also become clear why in a second. But yeah, last point about the Gail arc. She actually never meets Leon. By the time Gail's story rolls around, Leon's already been dead, maybe almost 100 years. So Gail is more familiar with kind of the history of Leon, and I believe that she believed that Leon was responsible for starting the war. And so that's why when they do meet in the People World arc in the cage, she is, tempted to exact her revenge. But she does forgive him or forget him. And that is one part of the resolution of Gail's character there. Alright, continuing with the chronology. 2217, January. Among the ruins of the Old Kingdom, a new nation rises. A new nation declares its sovereignty. It chooses a young green color for its national symbol to promote peace and to recall nature's beauty. So, in the previous video, we heard about the kingdom, Leon's old kingdom being overthrown thanks to the efforts of Gail. And then a few years later, a new nation is built. It will be called the New Nation for the remainder of this video. And it is not made explicit, but I want to believe that this is the nation that Demas wakes up in his Recollections of Dusk story, when there is the robot android researcher who puts Demas's memory into a new body. And it might be just a coincidence, but during that Recollections of Dusk story, the researcher puts on a young green-colored dress in order to receive a medal. That might be a hint, that might be a reference that this is actually the new nation. I want to believe it's true, so I'll believe it's true. And then a jump of about 300 years here, 2517, December. The new nation's robotics technology advances. In the hopes of restoring the environment, the new nation begins research into robotics. Also, in Demas's Recollections of Dusk story, we see that the new nation is more and more using robotics. We see the guy, the robot, cleaning the streets, and then the revival of Demas is part of that move. So yeah, this might be more kind of soft confirmation that that is the same city. And then the next entry is actually green. It will be related to Replicant, but we're going to skip over it for now. We're going to continue with the red Nier Reincarnation entries. 3124, March. The new nation confirms the death of all plants and animals on the earth. Due to pollution and the changing climate, the new nation confirms the extinction of all plants and animals on the surface of the earth. First time I read this, I was like, what in the world? Because looking at the chronology, Nier Replicant takes place after this date, and there are plenty of plants and animals in there. And then after that is Nier Automata, and there are plenty of plants and animals in there too. So I was wondering if, like, all the plants and animals went extinct, and then by the time Nier Replicant began, they were revived somehow. But looking at the chronology here, there is no such news about that. So that made me very suspicious. And then here, we're going to skip all the rest of page 5 and then jump to the very beginning of page 6. 8230, May. The manufactured flowers began attacking humanity. Under the directive of the new nation, newly discovered DNA is used to manufacture flowers with the intention of reviving plant life on Earth. The flowers possess tremendous reproductive vitality and soon cover the Earth and began attacking humans. The humans under threat began creating clones to battle the flowers. Both the flowers and the clones receive genes from one researcher. So the next red-colored entry we get is from F66X and 063Y's story. This is where we see the flowers fighting the clones. And here too, they make mention of the new nation. I don't know if a nation that is like 5,000 years old can be called new anymore, but... But yeah, we see a through line here. They want to revive plant life on Earth, which has been long extinct, and that's where the flowers came from. But they went wrong and then became belligerent and started attacking humans. And yes, I am saying humans here. This is the exact wording that is in the chronology. And this caught my attention as well. If we go back and we look at the previous part of the chronology, we get into the replicant timeline. All the humans are dead here. However, they are alive in 8000. Is this a case where, like, humans were revived in between the events of Replicant and then this year 8000? Also, there's no sign of that either. But we'll come to my conclusion after we get through the last two entries. 8625, November. A clone mutiny is suppressed. A group of clones become errors and rebel. They are reprogrammed and reintegrated. We saw this play out in the main story for 063Y and F66X. 9486, May. The flowers are exterminated. The flowers are exterminated. Production of the clones created to fight the flowers is halted. And that's it. That is the final red-colored Nier Reincarnation entry of the chronology. Kind of ends with a whimper. But alright, here is my theory. All of the red entries of this Nier Reincarnation chronology are on a different timeline. One hint that we get is that at that 3124 date, when all of the plants and animals are deemed extinct, that is something that does not happen in the prime timeline. And then also in the future with 063Y and F66X, humans are still around, which is not a thing in the prime timeline. And so I think all this time, all of the red entries have been on a different timeline, a different version of Earth. And looking at the 063Y and F66X story and how it ends, it reminded me of when Yuri and 063Y were traveling through the cage, and then they ended up in the library from Sino Alice. They discover a book which talks about that timeline. It's written by Accord, and she writes that this timeline doesn't really have a future, and so suggests shutting it down or closing it off. I don't remember the exact wording. I'll put the picture up on the screen. But yeah, maybe that's part of why the red-tinted entries end with this. It's because Accord turned it off. Maybe the hint was there all along in that book in the library. Fascinating stuff. And so, if we go back, we think about it, it does not seem that there was ever Mosso or white chlorination syndrome in these Nier Reincarnation stories. So like the stories where it would have been present, like Marie and Yuri, Leon and Demas, it's never brought up or even hinted at. People are not worried about becoming infected in that way. So yeah, maybe a different timeline. And also, I seem to remember that maybe someone said that the high school versions of Hina and Yuzuki were in a timeline also where there was no appearance of dragon and giant and Maso. I seem to remember having heard that somewhere. But it's interesting, thinking back on like how the chronology is presented and how I've been making the videos up to now, kind of reacting as I go. At first, when it's presented, it looks very kosher. It looks like it's all working together. We have the events in like 1000, with Yudil and Sarafa, and then the Middle Ages with Fio, and nothing really seems kind of conflicting or weird. But as we go further through the chronology, more and more seems kind of inconsistent and incongruent, until finally we get to these last 2 pages where there are some things that just can't be true if they're in the same timeline. And that's how the revelation came to me. And then I said this in a comment, but like, knowing this now, I kind of wish that as I was making the videos, I was thinking that if I had this knowledge before I started making videos, I could have maybe explained that as I was going. But then by doing it this way, these videos more kind of mirror my experience going through it, kind of wondering what's going on as we go through, and then we get to the revelation and I'm like, oh my god, all this time, blah blah blah. And if the chronology was set up so that I would experience this revelation partway through, that's really impressive writing, I gotta say. I've really enjoyed kind of the surprises that I've experienced going through the chronology here. That kind of begs the question, if the majority of reincarnation characters are in a different timeline, then does that make them, less important to the greater Nier story? You could make that argument, since in a lot of cases, they are not having a direct impact on the events of the prime timeline. But thematically, they work. And then, like Yoko Taro, he was talking about like the framework of reincarnation, giving him a chance to write characters and stories like Argo that he would not be able to write normally in the Nier universe. He also called kind of the high school stories of Hina and Yuzuki another thing that he may not have been able to do otherwise in the Nier universe. So having the other timeline is a valuable thing to have from the writer's perspective, and it gives us fans, just more flavor, more lore. However, there may actually be kind of direct effects of the reincarnation characters on that other timeline with the prime timeline, and it may be related to the various kind of signals and transmissions and stuff. But yes, with that thought in mind, let's return to page 5. Let's get into the green-colored events. And we'll go back to the year 2764. Will germinates in replicants. Due to the replicant system continuing and Maso continually being drawn from them, the replicants develop a sense of will. At first they think and feel as children, but quickly advance to mature thought. So here we get the awakening of the replicants, and the timing is suspicious, but this is the event immediately after Demas is awakened in the new nation. I want to believe that Demas, with his will awakening in him, somehow acted as like a trigger or catalyst in will awakening in the replicants. It would be so cool if one of my favorite reincarnation characters had an influence on one of the aspects of replicant that I love most. And I'm going to go on another tangent here, but that question that Nier Replicant asks, who is really human? Who deserves these human bodies? When the replicants awaken and develop their own personalities and feelings, like how unfair is it to take their bodies away? And we saw at the end of Replicant that Yona, she agreed with that sentiment and gave herself up rather than take the body back. And also I need to give credit to Leon. He was part of kind of how and why Demas became self-actualized. Alright, but continuing with the chronology, around the year 3000, replicants create culture. Most replicants have gained will. Regardless of the gestalt upon which the replicants are based, they are more influenced by their surroundings and upbringing. Different cultural practices spring up in various locations around the globe. They advance culturally to a Middle Ages-like state and make use of the structures around them. The year 3276, Red Eyes return. The replicants continue to purify the world of the Daegeon presence. Just when the number of Daegeon had become low, a replicant enters the forbidden city of Jerusalem. The young replicant entered Jerusalem in hopes of reviving their dead love, who was also a replicant. They find the remains of the final red eyes, and from it draw a glowing spirit which successfully revives the dead love. The resurrected replicant has glowing red eyes, and with nearly no consciousness kills the young replicant. The new red eyes begins to lead the remaining Daegyeon. This is interesting, and I wonder if this is the origin of the red eyes virus that we see happen in Nier Automata. People that are more familiar with this can chime in. The year 3287, the Daegyeon are exterminated. Due to the return of the red eyes, the Daegyeon began acting with purpose and direction. The Daegyeon disrupt the world the replicants worked to preserve and protect. An android and 4 replicants confront the red eyes and destroy it. Subsequently, all Daegyeon are destroyed, and the expulsion of Maso particles to the other world continues until the world is declared purified. Alright, so that was short-lived, but again, maybe perhaps this is the origin of that red eyes disease. I'm curious about this android and 4 replicants. Who are these people? I believe the only androids built up to this point are the Devila and Popola, but I don't know. Again, if anybody knows, let me know. The year 3288, the Gestalts began to gain consciousness. With the world purified, the Gestalts awaken and grow restless, but the replicants, with their newfound will, brand the Gestalts as shades and accuse them of trying to steal their bodies. War between the replicants and Gestalts begins. In some areas where the influence of the androids is particularly strong, some Gestalts are returned to their replicant forms and once again become human. So we're getting closer and closer to where Nier Replicant happens. But yes, the Gestalts, their behavior changes, and suddenly they want their bodies back. Interesting here, though, is to point out that I was not aware of the second part, however, where some Gestalts were actually returned to their replicant forms, and once again become human. So at this point, I guess there are humans. Not a ton, but they are out there. Around 3300, the war between the Gestalts and replicants escalates. In order for the Gestalts to return to their human bodies, the rite of renewal must be performed according to the Grimoire Noir plan. The original Gestalt, Nier, has had his Maso particles extracted all this time, and yet begins to enter the broken state. At this time, Nier begins to realize it has been more than 1,000 years, and Yona has not been cured. 3361. Replicant Papa Nier obtains the Grimoire Weiss. In order to return Yona to her replicant body, Gestalt Nier obtains the Grimoire Noir. 3465. Replicant Brother Nier obtains the Grimoire Weiss. In order to return Yona to her replicant body, Gestalt Nier obtains the Grimoire Noir. I love the mirroring of these two versions of Nier doing the same thing. In the previous video, where I talked about kind of the first appearances of Papa Nier and Brother Nier, some people mentioned that they enjoyed seeing the appearance of Papa Nier appear officially in the chronology here. And I agree, I like him too. But a couple people said that they believe that Papa Nier and Brother Nier were on different timelines. But I don't know. Having the different timelines of the Nier Reincarnation characters and then this green kind of main one makes me more convinced that Papa Nier and Brother Nier are on the same timeline, and that Brother Nier is a clone created by the Grimoire Noir. The folks that believe in the two different timelines, they say they have evidence. I would be happy to hear it. Alright, returning to the chronology. Replicant Nier and Grimoire Weiss embark on their journey. The androids Devila and Popola follow the program built by the Hamlin organization to enable Gestalt Nier to restore the Gestalts. Devila and Popola manipulate Replicant Nier to obtain the Grimoire Weiss. Devila and Popola further manipulate Replicant Nier to collect the sealed words in order to set up the meeting with Grimoire Noir and put into action the final step of the Grimoire Noir project. The year 3470. Replicant Nier kills Gestalt Nier. Gestalt Yona dies. At the Shadow Lord's castle, Replicant Nier kills Gestalt Nier. Gestalt Yona sacrifices herself, and Replicant Yona regains consciousness. With the death of Gestalt Nier, the Gestalt project is set back, and the human race is in jeopardy. 3473. A white-haired replicant destroys the quantum server. A white-haired replicant destroys the data server that stands where Tokyo used to be. Due to the destruction, a great portion of humanity's data is lost, but some is salvaged. So here we have confirmation of ending E in Nier Replicant being canon, being in the Prime timeline. In one of the last Nier Reincarnation livestreams, they had a fan question section, and somebody asked, after which ending of Nier Automata does Nier Reincarnation continue? And they answered ending E, and then the developers, the writers, they lamented that nobody asked after which ending does Nier Reincarnation follow Nier Replicant. We do get confirmation that it is ending E. I think we could have all guessed, but yeah, it is cool to get that here. And I don't know if this was new information or not, but the setting of Nier Replicant is where Tokyo used to be. The year 3631, the Humanities Heritage Revival Organization is established. This organization is established for the protection, management, restoration, and resurrection of the old world's heritage. After the suspension of the Gestalt project, androids take control of the government. 4198, the final Gestalt dies. The final Gestalt dies. 5012, July, an unidentified flying object attacks. July 4th, in various parts of the world, an unidentified flying object appears and sends out attacks. The androids are caught by surprise and suffer great losses. So here, it seems we have the first appearance of the aliens that come to Earth. And funny that it's July 4th. Maybe this is a reference to Independence Day, the film. The year 5013. The Army of Humanity is formed. Research begins on battle-type androids. The attacked androids conclude they are at a disadvantage against alien attacks and decide to form the Army of Humanity. Up to this point, the different groups of androids were only joined in communication, but over the course of the next 100 years, they organize into a unified force. In addition, at this time, the need for battle androids is asserted, and factories are built for their manufacture. I forgot to point this out in the previous entry, but we have moved from talking about replicants to talking about androids. Maybe it's the same being, just the terminology has shifted over. Since there are no more gestalts, the replicants are no longer replicating anything, so I guess they're now just androids. But yeah, androids taking control of the government means that really they are the kind of the primary sentient life form on Earth. The year 5024, the aliens began constructing machine life forms. The aliens take complete control of North and South America, which are part of the Country of Night. They begin construction of the machine life forms. The year 5100 and on, the Army of Humanity begins construction of a base on the Moon. The high rate of construction of machine life forms puts pressure on the androids. In order to preserve records of the old world civilizations and of humanity, the Army of Humanity begins construction of a base on the Moon. In addition, construction begins of an orbiting military base. The year 5980. In the undersea research facility, a girl is found in cold storage. After the extinction of humans, androids discover a research facility under the sea. In the depths of the facility, they find a girl stored away in cryostasis. The androids test the girl, discover she has unique cells, and conclude she is a living weapon. They begin making clones of her and call the operation the One-Winged Project. The girl's cells demonstrate an association with dragons, and her cells are named D cells. So here we get Noel out of nowhere. Not really out of nowhere, we knew about the dates from previously released information in live streams. But yeah, one revelation which I missed was that the research facility is underwater, and this makes me think of 10H and her short story. She thought she was in the underwater research facility. And then another thing, we are made aware of the existence of D cells, of cells from dragons. And that seems to explain why she becomes a dragon later. The year 6072, the eldest sister's history is revealed. Through further tests, the androids discover the eldest sister is not a manufactured living weapon. She is an actual human, but augmented with D cells that extend her life. So I read this and I was like, oh my god. I mean, it makes sense, but still, oh my god. So we think back to Noel's story. We hear about Eleanor, which was the daughter of David Underwood, I believe, who was kind of the lead researcher. And he was trying everything that he could to cure his daughter of her disease. It seems that the solution that he finally came upon was to inject D cells, dragon cells, into her daughter in order to cure her, and it seemed to work. But then that makes me ask, where did he get the D cells? And then this is also on the prime timeline. This is in green, so we can think back to when the dragon remains were taken by that secret research facility, and then they moved around, and then they were attacked, and the dragon remains were stolen. Alright, but let's continue with the timeline. Also, 6072, the undersea research facility is destroyed. The eldest sister regains her memories and undergoes a great shock, which turns to rage. She destroys the facility. We see this play out in Noel's main story. The year 6201. In the undersea facility, a living weapon awakens. In the destroyed research facility, one of the sisters awakens. She departs on a quest to reach her eldest sister's home. This is what I was just talking about Noel going through the research facility, and then she takes the sword from the original, from her eldest sister, and then goes on the quest to the homeland. And then I detailed this in my Noel's story overview. I still need to make part 2, but now I'm glad that I waited. We have a little bit more information here to work with that I can include in that second part. The year 6203. The army of humanity discovers a great white crystal in North America. The androids of the army of humanity discover a great crystal in North America. From the crystal, they retrieve the remains of a legacy version defense android with D-cells. Year 6230. The army of humanity creates a new weapon type, Dragon. A new weapon type Dragon is created specifically for use in the Country of Night. So with Noel's recollections of Dusk's story, we get as far as her kind of willfully turning herself into crystal in order to preserve her eldest sister's memories and also her nostalgic home. But the story is extended beyond that because Noel, as a clone, also has the D-cells, and we're seeing it here being harvested and then used to create new dragon weapons. And this may be the start of a cycle involving teleportation and time travel and so on and so forth. People have theories about this. I'm not super familiar about it, but yeah, it is out there. So yeah, Noel may actually end up being very important to the prime timeline of Nier and Drakengard. Alright, 2 entries left. 7645. An unusual explosion occurs at an abandoned factory. A strange explosion occurs at an abandoned factory on Robot Mountain. A large unidentified structure launches into space. At the same time, a strong wave of energy emits out and causes damage to electronics and machines. The possibility of this as an alien attack is deemed low. I do not know what to make of this, but Robot Mountain, referenced from Nier Replicant, is pretty crazy. I don't know what this large, unidentified structure could be, and I don't know what this strong wave of energy could be. Lots of mystery is suddenly introduced here. But not of alien origin, so what could it be? Could it be human? Could it be android? Not sure. And final entry. Year 7645 and on, the machine lifeform attacks drop to their lowest number on record. The number and intensity of machine lifeform attacks drop to their lowest point in thousands of years. The machine lifeforms still control 80% of the territory on Earth, but do not expand beyond that. The androids attempt various operations, but most end in failure. The production of machine lifeforms continues. So this is crazy, 80% of the Earth covered with machine lifeforms. That is kind of gross to me. But also interesting to consider why they do not expand beyond that point. Oh, actually, I think I just remembered why. I forgot who said it. It might have been the girl in red. But the machine lifeforms, like, they needed, in order to justify their existence, or to give them a reason to go on. And so complete annihilation of the androids would not be in their own favor. which is perhaps why they have not taken over the remaining 20%. Okay, that'll do it for this page. A very long video, but there was a lot of my kind of like personal theories and then reactions to various reveals here. I'm really enjoying doing these. I hope people are enjoying watching them as well. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again. Take care.